What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. I wanted to continue our Doom Tower guides. I know I did a guide on the Doom Tower a little bit back, and I wanted to kind of continue that because the Eternal Dragon was the boss that I did before, but there are several other bosses that I think are maybe a little bit easier to do, but I wanted to get some real quick guides out for you because I don't want you to waste resources building champions for certain bosses if you don't need to do that. So I wanted to go over the boss that's on the screen today, which is the Scarab King, this guy right here. And that's kind of what I wanted to go over, and I think that the reason why I wanted to do this is because he's probably one of the easiest bosses to solo with the correct champ and or with the correct type of gear. So I wanted to quickly go over this champion or this boss and give you a couple ideas for building champions for this. So let's quickly do what we did last time. Let's go over the boss guide. His first skill is Madness Fog. He attacks all enemies. It places a decreased attack and a decreased speed for 2 turns, and it places an extra hit on enemies that have no shield buff, and the extra hit will place a provoke. So there's 2 things from here that I see of ways to defeat this boss based on this first A1. Right off the bat, we have decreased attack and decreased speed. So we could bring a cleanser. That could be helpful with that first attack. Definitely not a bad idea to bring a cleanser. Our second hit, though, if they have no shield buffs, which tells you what, guys? It's pretty basic. Bring someone who has a shield buff. Now, there's several ways of doing this, right? You've got the bolster set, you've got the shield set, you've got champions that apply shields such as Lanothril, Vergis, several other people, right? So that's the first way of handling this, okay? If we do that, we don't have to worry about the provoke, right? We don't have to worry about a second hit, right? So only the first hit will hit if you have shield buffs, which is great. Second skill here we have is Vile Absorption. This attacks all enemies and places an extra hit on each enemy for each buff on the target. Well, that's really simple, guys. Don't bring lots of buffs if you don't have to, right? Don't bring lots of buffs if you don't have to, because then it won't hit as often. Each extra hit steals 1 random buff from enemies that have no shield buffs and removes 1 random buff from enemies under shield buff. So don't make your team rely on buffs because this A2 is just going to make it difficult, right? Then we have Place True Fear debuff for 1 turn on enemies who have buffs stolen. This will never happen if you have shield buffs, right? Because only the buff will get stolen if they have no shield buffs. It'll get removed if they have shield buffs. And so then we just have a regular fear. So again, that cleanse that we talked about for the A1 could be potentially very good. Then we have Spectral Horror passive, which decreases the damage received according to how much Borgoth's max HP has been decreased. So if he has 90% damage decrease if Borgoth's HP has been decreased by less than 10%, 60% if Borgoth's max HP is increased by 10 and 20%, 30 and eventually 0% if it has been decreased by more than 30%. So what does this tell us? This tells us we need someone or some way to decrease max HP. There's lots of ways to do this. We'll talk about that as well. Then we have the other passive here, which is counterattacks when attacked by an enemy that has no shield buff. I think you guys are starting to get the idea of how to beat the Scarab King here, right? You need shield. That is the easiest way to solve this, is having shield. So let's go over a couple options for shields. So there's a couple really simple ones that I want to go over right away. If you've been playing the game for a little bit of time and you did happen to do the Lanothril fusion, Lanothril is a great way to do this because he has this A2 that places shield buffs on all allies for 3 turns, equal to 20% of this champion's max HP, and it becomes protected if any of your allies are dead, so it's an even stronger shield. And it's a pretty decent shield to begin with. You get some decent HP on him, it does pretty well. Then you have this A3 that actually will team up with allies, so you get a lot of extra damage that way. And he also places a shield buff equal to 10% of this champion's max HP on the ally with the lowest HP whenever he does a basic. So he has lots of ways of providing shield. He also has this really great aura, which is HP in Doom Tower by 35%. Pretty nice, right? So he's not a bad champion to use. You'll also notice, though, that I happen to have a bolster set on this fine gentleman here, which protects 30% HP ally shield for 3 turns every time you enter into a new wave. So he gives you a lot of survivability for wave 1, a lot of survivability for wave 2, and he gives you a shield that's protected so it can't be stolen or removed by 30%. Now this can go on anybody, right? It can go on anybody and it can do wonders. So there's a world where you don't have to bring any shield champions. You just bring a bunch of champions in bolster and you beat the boss in 3 turns. Now for earlier stages, that's pretty easy. For later stages, that's a little more difficult. But this is a good way to start having bolster sets. We also have access to the shield set. If I have any, here we go. Shield set, which is basically the same as bolster, but a little bit weaker, right? This gives a 30% HP ally shield for 3 turns, but it's not protected, and it does not give you the 10% heal every turn. So it's a little bit weaker, but it's more accessible. You can farm this gear. You can't farm bolster gear. So if you missed out on bolster gear, unfortunately, shield is going to be the next best bet for you. Okay, so let's talk about a couple other champions that fit in this situation. So there are a few others that I want to go over. There's a lot of champions out there. One of them is Krisk the Ageless. Krisk has a passive that each round he places a shield buff on all allies for 2 turns, equal to 50% of this champion's max HP, right? You get him decently tanky. He gives a huge shield every turn, which it's insane, right? It's very, very powerful. You'll always have a shield up. It's nothing to scoff at. He's a great champion. However, he's also a Void Legendary. I just recently got him, so I don't expect you guys to have him, but I did want to bring that out as a note that he is going to make this super easy. He can be the only champion you need to bring, and it's super easy to get it handled. There's another champion, though, that I want to talk about that's actually very easy to get because he is an epic, and that is this guy right here, Mr. Vergis. He's an epic high elf champion that has a passive where he gets a shield every turn, and it's equal to 10% of the max HP whenever this champion loses 10% or more of his max HP from a single hit. This is crazy good because he's going to constantly be getting hit. He's going to constantly have a shield. It's impossible for him not to have this shield, because if he loses that shield, he's going to gain it back, right? It's crazy. So this is a permanent shield. You do have to have this buffed, have it booked, because it is normally on a 3-turn cooldown. So you do have to have 2 epic books at least into Vergis. If you get lucky like I did, you only need 2. You might need more than that. Obviously, you've got this here that has, a additional book, and this here that has 4 additional books. But this right here is phenomenal. If you can get this booked, Vergis can solo the Scarab King for you. And I think that that's something that's very important, and he's very, very accessible for a lot of people because he doesn't require too much investment. You'll see here that I have some very basic gear, right? He's in an Immortal set and a Destroy set because the Destroy set will trigger that damaged reduction to go down lower because you're destroying the HP with that Destroy set based on the damage he deals. Now, this is not a fast run, right? This is a very slow run, which is why you'll see when I'm doing it, you'll see here that on my team, I run other people, right? I use Seer and Ghostborn and Syl to get through the waves. Then I use Vergis and Lenothril to basically beat the boss, right? Because Lenothril will give shields to everybody, and then Vergis is there as a backup in case my other teammates die. He'll never die, and Lenothril is super tanky, and he applies shields, so it's very easy to clear with that type of team. I also recently just got Krisk, so I may end up swapping him in there, but he is a good, solid option. He's very easy to build, nothing crazy. Then we've actually got this guy right here, Metal Shaper, who also, where is it? Here we go, places a shield buff on all allies for 2 turns. The value of the shield is proportional to this champion's level. So Metal Shaper is a good alternative for a rare champion that can actually solo the Scarab King. I highly recommend against this. Because it's a lot additional building in the early game. In the mid game and the late game, when you've got a little more resources to build, I think that you could build a Metal Shaper, because I think he's also very good in Faction Wars and in the Doom Tower secret rooms. But I don't know if I would invest in him super early. But he is going to be easier to book, right? Because he's a rare, so it's a lot easier to book him, and he does actually do the job. But because he's a rare, he's harder to build, and you'll see here that, like I said, my Vergis is barely built, right? He's in basically like Faction War level gear. Nothing's actually maxed out. It's all just plus 12, right? It's like, this is a terrible artifact or accessory, right? This is an okay one. It's got, a bunch of percent stats. Like, it's okay, but he's not crazy built. And this does work for all of my Doom Tower normal Scarab King runs, which, if you're early game, like most of the people who watch my channel are, he is going to solve all of your issues. This epic is crazy. But there are several other champions that you can use, but I think that this is the champion that I would recommend most people look out for, because he's relatively easy to get. He doesn't take an incredible amount of investment, and he's relatively easy to build, because like this gear is not even that crazy, right? It's not even that crazy, and it does the job. It just got some speed. It's got a little bit of resistance to ignore, debuffs. It's got a little bit of, HP, a little bit of attack to deal some damage, right? He doesn't even have a crazy amount of speed, and he can pretty much do it. I use the other members of the team to speed it up, so I'm not spending a year and a half in there, but it does work. That team does work. It's very easy. It's not difficult to do at all. You can see, I'll go in here, I'll do one run with my team, and it's super simple. You'll have Ghostborn, Seer, and Syl to get through the ways. Super simple, and then we'll get to that final boss, and we'll just destroy it really easy. Now, obviously, this is a early level Scarab King, right? I wanted to wait originally until I got to the later levels so you guys could see how that it does work at a higher difficulty, but I promise this does work at the higher difficulty. But you'll see, right? He's got, this crazy stuff going on, and he's very difficult to deal damage to because of the destroy. But you'll see here that we slowly but surely will get through and do some very good stuff. So here we go. There you go. You've got a destroy damage going in, and that purple bar at the top shows the damage reduction. So as we destroy more and more health, we will get more and more damage that he's able to take. And we constantly have shields, right? You see that we constantly have shields most of the time. And when we don't have shields, it kills the champions that we don't need to survive, like Syl, like Seer, like Ghostborn. We don't need those champions to survive for this to work. This is still a, not a super fast run, but it works 100% of the time. I've never failed. This has never been, super difficult for me to do. But you'll see we got a ton of destroy there, and now he just dies, right? So it's really easy to do. It's super simple, and, I know that team has a bunch of other champions on it that I didn't mention, right? But the main thing is Vergis. He is the main one that does it, because we have Lenothril who calls him in. He deals that destroy damage, and he is able to basically solo the Scarab King. So I highly recommend looking out for Vergis. He is the main guy that I recommend people build for the Doom Tower Scarab King. But I want to know what you guys use too, because there are definitely a lot of other champions out there. This is just one of the champions that I have gotten my hands on that has done amazing work for me in the Doom Tower. And I really want to know what you guys use. So let me know down in the comments what you guys are using for your Scarab King, whether it's a full team squad or it's a solo champion. But guys, that's going to be it for me today. If you liked this video, make sure to hit the like button and comment down below. And to see more videos like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can be notified whenever I post new content. But guys, that is it for me. I really look forward to seeing you in the next one. Peace.